Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 202 based on novel. So let's start. The end of the world. Wasteland is a barren area deep in the western wasteland. Because of the special terrain, this area is divided into two layers, high in the west and low in the east. The cliffs span thousands of miles and can't be seen at a glance. The word boundless comes from this. At this time, at the edge of the high cliff, on a high steep stone, a young man in black robe is sitting here, his eyes slightly closed and his breathing is orderly. The energy between heaven and earth flows into his body with the young man's breathing and becomes a part of himself after some refining. For a long time, Xiao Yan slowly opened his eyes. A lightning fine orn flashed through the depths of his black eyes, looking straight to the east. In another 6 months, it will be the day he agreed with the 4 major gates. At that time, the gratitude and resentment between him and the 4 major gates will be settled together. I don't know how Luo Jin is now. He has also experienced in the western regions, but he hasn't heard about him. I don't know if he will come when the Tianjua ancient tomb is opened this time. As soon as he mentioned the 4 major gates, Xiao Yan naturally thought of Luo Jin. At the beginning, the guy had faced the 4 major gates with him. This time, he met with the 4 major gates again. If the latter was not there, Xiao Yan would feel something missing. With his current strength, the patriarch of the 4 major sects has been unafraid. Of course, Yi Luotian is an exception. Even he couldn't see through the strength of the latter. Moreover, Yi Luotian's strange means was really troublesome. Among the 4 people, only he hid the most. Even so, if Luo Jin is not here, even if he can deal with the 4 main doors alone, he will still feel meaningless. On the contrary, if Luo Jin is here, they will fight together. The original gratitude and resentment can be counted as the end. As for Tianjua ancient tomb, this desolate place is the entrance of Tianjua ancient tomb. Now it is still half a year away from the agreed time. Now it happens to be boring and have nothing to do. Xiao Yang has a plan in his heart. Just like his original purpose of going to the western wasteland, I don't know whether Tianjua ancient tomb can be opened by relying on Tianjua steppe alone. Whether you can succeed or not, you'll know at a try. Thinking of doing it, Xiao Yang jumped down from the cliff. The wind of hunting blew by Xiao Yang's ear. 100 feet away, but in the twinkling of an eye, it had fallen to the ground. Then, Xiao Yang turned and looked back at the row of cliffs as straight as a wall. The cliffs stretching thousands of miles are boundless, and the straight and upward steep slopes are even more impossible to climb. The rugged rocks and the yellow sand all over the sky do not feel the slightest vitality between heaven and earth. The desolation here is far beyond ordinary people's imagination. What is more unimaginable is that there is a great opportunity in this barren land. Standing at the position where Xiao Yang stood at the moment, you can clearly see that there is a huge gully like an abyss between the cliff and the earth under his feet. The gravel fell, and even the sound of falling to the ground could not be heard. In this regard, Xiao Yang directly ignored it, raised his eyes and looked directly at the opposite cliff. There was a small strange stone spitting out from the cliff, less than 1 meter long and several feet wide. It was like the entrance of a gate, but he couldn't see the entrance of the so-called gate. But this is also the result of Xiao Yang's search for several days. Here, heaven and earth are in general shape. There are no redundant signs between the cliffs on both sides. Don't say that he has been here in the future. I'm afraid an acquaintance came here and may not be able to distinguish the direction. His body moved. Before he came to the prominent strange stone, Xiao Yang raised a trace of caution in his heart. Immediately, the soles of his feet gently fell on the strange stone. Buzz! At the moment Xiao Yang landed on the strange stone, the cliff in front of him suddenly flashed a burst of light, and the cliff shook. At the same time, Xiao Yang was also surprised. While his face changed, Tianzibu subconsciously showed up and quickly retreated back. After all, it is the cave left by the strong in Huiyuan territory. Although it has been nearly 1,000 years, Xiao Yang still dare not be careless. At the moment when Xiao Yang Tianju stepped out, there was a sudden tremor on the cliff above the strange stone. The roaring sound shook the world. Xiao Yang's eyes narrowed, but a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Did the door of Tianjue ancient tomb finally open? When the stone gate was opened, the originally complete cliff was separated from it and disappeared into the depth of the cliff. Then, a substantial energy light curtain appeared in front of Xiao Yang. This is the entrance of Tianjue ancient tomb. Xiao Yang's heart trembled and his heart couldn't help but be moved. He had heard about Tianjue ancient tomb from the southern region and wanted to see it in person. Now he can see it, his heart will inevitably be excited. However, although the entrance has appeared in front of Xiao Yang, the first thing to enter the ancient tomb is to break the light curtain. Shortly after the light curtain rose, Xiao Yang clearly saw that the light flickered slightly on the originally powerful light curtain, and the power on it was reduced a lot. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang doesn't have to think about it. It can't be caused by the erosion of years. The reason why the power on the light curtain will weaken is that he shows Tianjue step. As for the remaining power, I'm afraid it needs two other fighting skills of Tianjue. Tianjue palm and Tianjue finger, although these two fighting skills are also ranked among the human-level fighting skills, since Tianjue step can bring such an amazing growth effect, I'm afraid those two will not be much worse. I'm afraid I have to be careful when facing Chen Array and Wu Jitian. A thought flashed through his mind. Immediately, Xiao Yang picked up his eyes and looked at the light curtain in front of him. Later, he said, but now, Xiao Yang can't help but want to have a try. With his own strength, does he have the opportunity to break the light curtain? Even a small gap is enough for Xiao Yang to do a lot of things. When he thought of doing it, Xiao Yang clenched his fists and gathered his powerful power in the palm of his hand. Immediately, his foot changed and his body turned into a flash of lightning. However, he appeared in front of the light curtain. He clenched his fists and waved them hard towards the light curtain in front of him. Drink! With a violent drink, the powerful force burst out from Xiao Yang's fists and bombarded the light curtain. Buzzing, buzzing. However, the final result was that Xiao Yang was stunned. Such a huge force, even a 7-star fighting emperor, did not dare to fight easily. However, just like this, after bombarding the light curtain, it did not even set off a ripple. On the contrary, it was the surrounding void, which was instantly broken under this terrible force. His heart was stunned. Immediately, Xiao Yang clenched his teeth and his fighting spirit surged up again. This time, together with his exertion, he also had his great power image. Power elephant, break it for me, dang. The powerful impact pounded on the light curtain. Even if it was not Xiao Yang's full strength, it was enough for an 8-star emperor to pay attention to it. However, the final result was still unsatisfactory. Compared with the last time, this time, on the light curtain, there was a layer of shallow energy microwave, but it disappeared in an instant. Then, when Xiao Yang was just about to take another shot, a powerful force came from his fist without warning. Just one blow would blow it out. Dang! With an earth-shaking noise, a powerful energy storm swept across the low continent. In an instant, the flying sand between heaven and earth and the bleak flowing wind dissipated in an instant. The world was silent for a short time. Hiss! Then, in this brief silence, a dark shadow flew by suddenly, until it was 100 feet away. It's Xiao Yang. 3 days have passed since the ancient tomb was opened on that day. On the day of opening the ancient tomb, Xiao Yang tried his best to open the ancient tomb, but the final result was that nothing was left except a circle of shallow ripples on the energy light curtain. On the contrary, when his fighting skills were broken by the light curtain, the rebound force would blow Xiao Yang out, but fortunately, although the power is strong, but Xiao Yang was not hurt. However, after trying for dozens of times, Xiao Yang finally understood that it was impossible to open the ancient tomb before integrating the 3 famous fighting skills of the Great Master of Heaven. Therefore, Xiao Yang simply gave up the idea of opening the ancient tomb. On the contrary, he began to cultivate his newly obtained fighting skills and overcome the shortage with the help of this light curtain. As a high-level fighting skill of the spiritual level, it is not easy to cultivate. Most of these fighting skills have a common feature, which is easy to learn and difficult to pass. Even with the former experience left by the scroll itself, It takes a lot of time and the accumulation of practical experience to truly understand the essence. At present, it is still half a year away. Xiao Yang naturally doesn't lack time. As for the actual combat, it only refers to accumulating experience in energy collision and understanding his control over fighting skills more clearly from an objective point of view. Therefore, this light curtain has undoubtedly become Xiao Yang's best test stone now. Of course, Xiao Yang didn't fall down easily, except for cultivating the famine finger. Golden Elephant Ju is a fighting skill known for defense in the Four Saints image Ju, and its requirements for the control of physical power are also outrageous. Force image resolution focuses on gathering the power in the body at one point, condensing in the body and accumulating thin hair, which is undoubtedly of great benefit to combat. As for the Golden Elephant decision, unlike condensation, the latter disperses the strength of the whole body. Of course, this dispersion is not out of order, but disperses the strength of the body to all parts of the whole body, and adds a special connection with each other, so as to protect itself from all aspects. In addition, the Golden Elephant will be able to release its strength to the greatest extent. Just like the 8-star warrior, it will release its strength and condense a layer of almost substantive protective cover on the body surface, which is terrible for the control of strength. Last time, Xiao Yang did his best to achieve success. That's why his defense is extremely powerful. It's hard to imagine how terrible it would be if Xiao Yang could cultivate the Golden Elephant decision to great success one day. Once he exercised it at that time, although the imagination is beautiful, no matter what the future is, at least for now, Xiao Yang still needs hard cultivation. Only when he blooms in the fire of hell can he be afraid of fireworks in the world. With the release of the fighting skills in his hand again and again, the fighting spirit in Xiao Yang's body is also restored through repeated cultivation. Under the repeated consumption, Xiao Yang's heart has raised an inexplicable and strange feeling. Time flies, it's a month. After a month of continuous cultivation, Xiao Yang became more and more proficient in the control of Mi Huangji and Jin Xiongju. In particular, Mi Huangji, although it is an advanced fighting skill of the spiritual level, it is a fighting skill mainly based on fighting spirit consumption. After repeated cultivation, the progress is naturally extremely fast. It's the Golden Elephant. The latter's requirements for the flesh are really strict. With Xiao Yang's current flesh strength, he can only reluctantly condense a light yellow mask on the body surface. That's the result of a month's efforts. Although the process was difficult, Xiao Yang could clearly feel that the powerful defense brought by the Golden Elephant decision was hard to break even if it was fighting spirit. Sure enough, after a violent collision with the energy mask, this time, Xiao Yang's body was firmly fixed in place without being shaken back by the rebound force. Even if this has made Xiao Yang sweat profusely and consumed a lot of physical strength, I'm afraid the result is that an ordinary 9-star fighting emperor will marvel at it. Now, with Xiao Yang's full strength, he can exert 7 points. It's amazing that he can cultivate to such a level in a month. What's more, Xiao Yang still cultivates 2 fighting skills together. 7 points to overcome the shortage, and the Golden Elephant decision, even if not many, can also play 4 points. Compared with the former, the achievement of the Golden Elephant decision seems to surprise Xiao Yang more. Mi Huang means, in the void, Xiao Yang's 10 fingers formed a seal, and the majestic fighting spirit in his body suddenly burst out and quickly poured into a huge red energy finger on his head. At the same time, a powerful energy pressure also spread from it. Then, when the power among the fingers had reached the peak, Xiao Yang gave a violent drink at the bottom of his heart. Suddenly, the huge fingers on his head rushed forward. Then, he bombarded the energy curtain of the ancient tomb. Boom! Then, when the huge energy finger burst, the terrible energy was released, and the powerful force set off a circle of energy ripples on the light curtain, but soon, those ripples disappeared again. At the same time, a powerful energy storm also burst out from the light curtain, wrapped with the powerful energy brought by the explosion of energy fingers, sweeping outward. Drink. Jin Xiongju, Qi. Xiao Yanxin's hair gave a violent drink. Almost at the same time, his powerful strength condensed rapidly all over his body, but in the twinkling of an eye, it condensed into a thin yellow mask on Xiao Yang's body surface. Then, a powerful energy storm came. Click. At the moment when this energy collided with Xiao Yang, although the golden elephant was never broken, there was a click sound that only he could hear in the depths of Xiao Yang's body. For a moment, Xiao Yang's pupils suddenly coagulated, and his breathing could not help but stagnate slightly. The inexplicable breaking sound was the barrier between him and the six-star fighting emperor. At this moment, it burst. On the cliff, Xiao Yang sat with the vigorous wind of hunting on his head. The hot heat and the wind and sand blowing on his body were ignored at will. Feeling the rising breath in his body, Xiao Yang couldn't help but show a happy look in his eyes. In countless battles, his cultivation finally rose gradually. Now, it's time to come. Six-star fighting emperor, once promoted, it shows that his combat power will increase again, and this will enable him to have greater harvest in the Tianjue ancient tomb opened 5 months later. It can't be said that the volume of Guyuan formula in the hands of Tianjue master can also succeed. Of course, in addition, it is the inheritance of Tianjue. That thing is also quite attractive. With a surprise in his heart, Xiao Yang sat down and swept away the chaotic thoughts in his brain. His breathing gradually became smooth and orderly, and his heart gradually returned to calm. A pair of painted black eyes were as dark as a deep pool. The depth that he couldn't see to the end made him feel more mysterious. This desolate place is extremely desolate, and the environment is more severe than other places. Therefore, Xiao Yang is not worried that someone will disturb him here. Therefore, he has not found another hiding place for this promotion. In addition, although the environment in this desolate place is bad, the energy of fire attribute is extremely abundant. Cultivating here undoubtedly has a certain increasing effect on Xiao Yang. Both the cultivation speed and the refining degree of fighting qi will be improved. Therefore, Xiao Yang stopped procrastinating. With the help of the volatile breath in his body, he quickly made practice knots with his hands, and his mind moved. The burning formula skill in his body suddenly began to work. For a while, all the fire energy in this world suddenly rioted at this moment, just like being attracted by some kind of attraction, and gathered frantically towards Xiao Yang on the edge of the cliff. With the operation of the skill, the strange fire in Xiao Yang's body surged up rapidly along the meridians of his whole body. Finally, it rushed out directly from Xiao Yang's head. The forest white flame twisted and circled. Unexpectedly, it turned into a white flame dragon, entrenched Xiao Yang, raised his head to the sky, opened his mouth, and sent out a silent roar between heaven and earth. Those powerful fire energy gathered crazily. Then, it was swallowed by the flame dragon. After some refining, it finally merged into Xiao Yang's body. Under such continuous energy infusion, Xiao Yang's breath also increased rapidly, and the cyclone space in his body expanded gradually under the continuous injection of huge fighting spirit. At the same time, the northern region. In the endless North Sea, on a deserted island, at this moment, a beautiful woman wearing a white plain skirt, long hair and waist, exuding fairy temperament, is looking at the boundless sea area in front of her with a dignified heart. What on earth is this place? Why is this sea area so big that I can't even cross it? In more than a year, the woman has tried various means, but she has never been able to cross the boundless sea area. The island is like a curse on her. No matter how hard she tries, she can only reluctantly return in the end. After a year, even if she is unwilling to do so again, she must recognize her current situation. She knows very well that the reason why she can't cross this sea area is, in the final analysis, strength. If you really want to cross this sea area, the best way is to practice hard. Only by improving her own strength can she have the opportunity to leave here. At that time, she can find the person in her heart. Only now, the only thing a woman can do is to stay on this island and practice wholeheartedly. Time passed quickly. In a twinkling of an eye, it was 3 months. Until this time, Xiao Yang, who had been immersed in cultivation, gradually woke up. At this time, his breath had stepped onto a new level. 6-star fighting emperor. In the order of fighting emperor, there is a huge gap between each star. The so-called thousands of miles of loss has been fully reflected in the realm of the strong. Generally speaking, with Xiao Yang's current strength, in the early days of the 6-star fight against the emperor, if you were an ordinary person, You wouldn't have any chance of winning in the face of Qin Yun's strong man in the middle of the 6-star fight against the Emperor. However, Xiao Yan is different. Whether it's his physique or his strength, his combat power is far superior to the strong at the same level. In the later stage of the 5-star duty, he can kill the strong at the later stage of the 8-star duty, and his strength is comparable to the quasi-9-star duty. Now, Xiao Yan has broken through to the 6-star duty, and every aspect has been improved from inside to outside. His combat power makes him comparable to the ordinary 9-star duty. Such strength, placed among the strong of the Tianjua ancient tomb, must be the best. Beside the cliff, Xiao Yan slowly opened his eyes, felt the surging fighting spirit in his body, opened his hands slightly, and then closed slowly. Although there was nothing between the palms, Xiao Yan still felt a seemingly indistinct power. The void between the palms was slightly distorted. Although it would not cause too much change, he was still shocking. Without using fighting spirit, how can it not be shocking to create such a scene with the flesh? With such powerful physical strength and Xiao Yang's fighting spirit, Xiao Yan has full confidence. If he faces the 8-star Emperor again, he will be able to kill each other. As soon as he thought about this, Xiao Yan's mouth couldn't help but show a sneer. This trip to Tianjua ancient tomb will completely end his gratitude and resentment with the 4 major gate. After returning to his mind, Xiao Yan didn't get up in a hurry, but thought a move. The powerful soul power spread out all over the whole sky, like attracting something. After a short moment, between heaven and earth, a trace of lacquer black energy condensed out of the emptiness and quickly gathered in front of Xiao Yan. This black energy is the power of the road. With the growth of strength, Xiao Yan also wants to see how much his power of the road has been improved. When my mind moved, the power of the great road the size of a washbasin condensed in front of me was quickly split and condensed into 9 tabernacles. At this time, the power of the avenue constantly attracted was also slowly condensed, and finally, the 10th tent was successfully condensed. Staring at the 10th tent in front of him, Xiao Yan didn't have much emotional fluctuation in his eyes. He wasn't very satisfied with the scene in front of him. The power of the road is the most mysterious power between heaven and earth. Even if it is fighting spirit, I'm afraid it can't be compared with it. If the former can't be absorbed, I'm afraid the power of the road will become the main tone of the continent. However, despite this, Xiao Yan still doesn't believe that, as the most uncontrollable force between heaven and earth, can its function only be used to escape or chase people? This is obviously not true. Therefore, Xiao Yan was more curious about how to better control and make use of the power of these roads. Since it is your own power, you must be under your own control. Otherwise, if you can't even do this, it's useless to keep the power of this avenue. With this in mind, Xiao Yan stretched out his hand, and the 10 tents automatically flew in front of him, fused with each other, and became a black energy light mass the size of a washbasin, suspended over Xiao Yan's palm. At this moment, Xiao Yan can control the power of the avenue. Since then, that's all. However, this is not his own will. He wants to let the power of the avenue play its due power in his hands. When the mind moves, the huge soul power condenses rapidly in front of you, turns into an invisible hand, changes along with the corresponding mind, and grabs the energy light in front of you. The lacquer black energy light mass gradually changes its shape under the package of soul power, sometimes becoming elliptical and sometimes becoming slender, both like a football and a long black stick. However, just when Xiao Yan thought it was so easy to condense it, the power of the road in front of him was restored again at the moment when his soul power dispersed. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yan couldn't help feeling stunned. Only then did he understand that the control of the power of the avenue was not as simple and easy as it seemed on the surface, but it was just the appearance, and the interior could not be fixed, and the power in it could not be completely condensed. Even if such a loose power of the avenue could be condensed into the 10 tents, it would not help Xiao Yan much. However, Xiao Yan also understands that everything is difficult at the beginning. Most people don't understand the mystery of the power of the road. Otherwise, there won't be so few people on the mainland who can understand the power of the road. As soon as he thought of this, Xiao Yan smiled and relieved himself. Then, he controlled the power of the road in front of him again and tried again. He believed that there would always be a way for him to perfectly control the power of the road in countless attempts. At that time, the empty road will inevitably become another big card for him. Controlling the power of the road in front of him, Xiao Yang's soul power was injected into it regardless of the madness of consumption, trying again and again, learning experience from failure, and reviving after disappointment. In such a continuous attempt to concentrate, another month has passed. At this moment, there is only 1 month left from the 1-year appointment with the people of the 4 major doors. Xiao Yang, on the other hand, forgets himself, indulges in the power of the road in front of him, repeatedly tries, circulates in failure, and tries to find the way out. On the other side, in the western regions, I don't know when, the agreement between Xiao Yang and the 4 major gates sounded like a gust of wind throughout the western regions. In the twinkling of an eye, almost everyone in the western regions knew about it. Tianjue ancient tomb is a treasure known to everyone in the western regions. Unfortunately, it is closed to the outside world. The only way to open it is to combine the 3 famous fighting skills of Tianjue and open it with the power of the 3 fighting skills. Now, the 3 fighting skills have surfaced. It's time to open Tianjue ancient tomb. With the spread of the news, countless powerful people are marching towards the end of the world. Although there is still 1 month left, these people who have long coveted Tianjue ancient tomb can't help thinking. They can't wait to enter Tianjue ancient tomb. Even if there is still 1 month left, they are still excited about it. On Xiao Yang's side, after countless attempts, he finally grasped an opportunity, and the power of the road in front of him finally condensed. Even though he finally returned to the original state, this time, the form of the cohesion of the power of the avenue lasted for nearly a minute. This alone has excited Xiao Yang. Now that he has successfully taken the first step, he will not be far from the moment of real success. After that, after hundreds of repeated attempts to condense, finally, after 10 days, when the soul power in Xiao Yang's soul ball consumed more than half, a large mass of black avenue power in front of him was completely condensed into 10 black steel needles with a small arm length and a small thumb thickness. The reason why they are steel needles is that these 10 needles are just like ordinary metals on the surface. They look like they are made of refined steel, and this is the result of the extreme cohesion of the power of the road. Controlling the 10 steel needles, Xiao Yang lowered down with curiosity in his heart, looked at the energy light curtain on the cliff again, and showed a kind of eager expression on his face. I don't know what he will get if he uses these 10 steel needles to deal with the light curtain. With curiosity in his heart, Xiao Yang came to the light curtain and raised his palm. 10 steel needles were suspended above his palm, floating up and down. Go. Then, Xiao Yang's heart moved, and his raised palm gently waved forward. 10 steel needles immediately rushed forward. After a sharp sound of breaking the air, they all stabbed into the energy light curtain. Hiss. 10 steel needles went out and in together, but they all pierced into the light curtain inch deep. Hiss. Seeing this scene, even Xiao Yang, as the master, couldn't help taking a breath. The person who laid the light curtain, but the once strong man in the chemical source environment, can't imagine that his 10 steel needles can penetrate into the light curtain. It's hard to imagine how terrible the power of these 10 steel needles is. If this power falls on the strong man of fighting the emperor, won't it leave blood holes immediately? Then, just when Xiao Yang was shocked by this, in the distance behind him, a breath was coming here quickly. With the rapid approach of the breath in the distance, in Xiao Yang's line of sight, more than a dozen fuzzy light spots gradually became clear. Then, they turned into clear figures, each on one side, and there were also people in groups flying here. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang could not help but frown slightly. He was curious about the purpose of these people coming here. With the rapid approach of the figure, those people also found Xiao Yang's figure early. Immediately, many people cast slightly hostile eyes on Xiao Yang. Of course, these people are always on guard against each other. It's getting closer and closer to the opening of Tianjue ancient tomb. Everyone present has become a competitor. Everyone here may take away the opportunity that would have belonged to them. The so-called competition will lead to struggle, and the process of struggle will inevitably lead to death and injury. If possible, they will never be stingy to the people around them. Each more person, they will be a little more threat. Therefore, As early as invisible, these people have become enemies. When they came near, they first looked at Xiao Yang with cold eyes, and then looked at the energy curtain on the cliff. Previously, if they hadn't noticed the energy fluctuation here, they might not be able to find here so quickly. One eye looked at the energy light curtain on the cliff, through which one could vaguely see a darkness. Suddenly, one eye could not help but rush into a fiery color, and the fighting spirit in the body slowly circulated. Someone wanted to try to break the energy light curtain, but in the end, it stopped. The ancient tomb has existed for nearly 1,000 years, and there are countless people trying to open it, but no one has succeeded for a long time. Even the bombardment of the 9-star duty will be resisted by the seemingly thin energy light curtain. How can they do it? Looking at the strong fighters who obediently returned, Xiao Yang smiled, turned his eyes and swept to the people behind. In just a short moment, there have been nearly 50 strong Dipper Emperors gathered here. Among them, the strength of people is different. The weakest has reached the middle of the 1-star Dipper Emperor, and the strongest is 2 8-star Dipper Emperors. Such strength can also be called an extremely top existence in the western regions. The dark eyes swept over these people, and Xiao Yang couldn't help but be dumbfounded. This western region is really a hidden dragon and crouching tiger. Unexpectedly, there are nearly 50 strong fighting emperors who are rare in ordinary days. Such a huge team can definitely walk sideways in this western region. While Xiao Yang's eyes scanned these people, many people in the crowd also looked at the former. Suddenly, a look of surprise appeared in many eyes. Such a young strong man fighting the emperor is very rare even if he looks at the whole continent. Usually, such a strong man must have a lot of power behind him. However, the young man in black in front of him seems to be only one person. In this way, some people in the field can't help sneering in their hearts and their thoughts arise in their hearts. However, there are nearly 50 strong men fighting against the emperor. They will be dissatisfied with each other. Once they make trouble and generate friction because of some small things, it will not do them any good. Therefore, at this time, it is undoubtedly the best if they can make some actions to deter the people present. The so-called persimmons have to be pinched soft. At this time, Xiao Yang, who looks the youngest in the field, has naturally become their goal. Being young means that the cultivation time is short. At the same time, it also means that the strength is weak. In addition, the latter is now their opponent. If they can suppress it, they can reduce one competitor and deter the people present. This is tantamount to killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Why not? Dealing with the latter, in their eyes, is like adults bullying children. They won't have any pressure at all. Of course, since the latter is also a fighting emperor, among the people present, only some 7-star fighting emperors will do it. As for the 2 8-star fighting emperors, their own breath is enough to be feared, and naturally there is nothing to show. At the same time, Xiao Yang also noticed the bad eyes from the 7-star fighting emperors around him. He thought a little in his heart. Even if he was clear, he couldn't help sneering. No matter where he went, someone would be willing to do such a thing. However, Xiao Yang is not an ordinary fighting emperor. Hehe, since you brought it to the door, I'll accept it impolitely. With a cold smile in his heart, when he looked up, he found that there was a strong man in the middle of the 7-star duty coming face to face with a mocking color on his face. Seeing this, Xiao Yang smiled playfully. Then, the strong man also came to Xiao Yang, looked at Xiao Yang and sneered. Boy, do you want to go to Tianjue ancient tomb? There was a sense of disdain in the rough laughter. The person facing him was a strong middle-aged man. His bronze muscles were full of arrogance. Coupled with the rough voice of words, he made the listener tremble. On the contrary, Xiao Yang looked thin, which formed a sharp contrast with it. No. Xiao Yang was indifferent and smiled. Ha ha ha, of course. But if you want to go in, you have to ask your fist if you agree. With a cold drink, the strong man even mobilized the huge fighting spirit in his body and condensed in the palm. The huge palm suddenly clenched his fist and waved his arm. With a strong wind, he hit Xiao Yang hard. Looking at the strong man who shot directly with a word in the field, there was a hissing sound of sucking cold air in the surrounding crowd. Then, the huge fist came to Xiao Yang's face under the package of fighting spirit and smashed it hard on the latter's face. The strong wind roared in Xiao Yang's ear, and the air in front of him quickly became thin. Xiao Yang's breath couldn't help but stagnate slightly. However, in this regard, Xiao Yang's face is plain and calm, which makes people surprised. At the next moment, when the huge fist was about to fall on Xiao Yang's face, Xiao Yang raised his hand. His movements were consistent and fast as lightning. In front of the unbelievable eyes of the middle-aged strong man, his 5 fingers opened. Without using any fighting spirit, he locked his fist firmly between his 5 fingers, even the strength and fighting spirit, all broken in an instant. This video will end here.